All right, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to this week's Stock Market Outlook video. There's a lot to cover this week. We had some amazing moves in the AI semiconductor space. There's so many names to cover. We're going to walk through Hood, NVIDIA, Tesla, Palantir, TEM, LEU, NBIS, Oracle, ALAB, MU, AAOI, HUT, and RKLB, but that will be after we talk through the overall market and kind of give us some really good context. And of course, we're going to cover all the mega caps as well. First things first, let's go ahead and bring up the QQQ. And by the way, this is brought to you by the Trade Lab, which is my daily newsletter that is not just basically a breakdown of the market, breakdown my watch list as well, but also provides a lot of educational articles and bonus resources. So the focus isn't to just, give you guys a watch list and that's what you should go buy. It's more about the education aspect of it, teaching people how to fish. So if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and click the link down below in the description and check it out. And I've also got a free weekend report that you can check out down there as well. All right, so with that said, let's talk about the QQQ and talk about the overall market as well. So first, kind of setting the stage, we of course had the major correction in April. We've been in an uptrend since we retook the 21 EMA here. We had a really nice move, and then since the basically late July area here, we've been in this choppy kind of stealth corrective process where a lot of names are basing, a lot of names are resetting, and now we're kind of moving out and up from that area, starting from this gap down that got bought up last week, and then we continued higher this week, regaining this strong trend above the basically rising 10 EMA, 21 EMA, and 50 SMA. So overall context, we're kind of restarting this trend in my view, emerging from this consolidation pattern, and we'll just have to wait and see how long this trend lasts. But we're making new highs. Things look very, very strong. Now we have been rising basically very strongly for these past 2 weeks. So some consolidation, some choppiness next week, a stress test here or there, that would be expected and would be normal. As long as we remain in that trend above the rising moving averages, things look good, and you just kind of want to judge individual stocks based on their personal behavior. So that's looking at the QQQ. Obviously, strong action this week into new highs. A little bit of a fade here on Friday, just a tiny bit of a fade, and a little bit of space above the 10 EMA. So again, some consolidation, some pullback, some range building would be natural and normal. Looking at the IWM, let's bring that up. This has been leading the QQQ. You can see it kind of broke out of this consolidation. It started consolidating a little bit earlier and broke out really on this day. It's been trending above the 10 EMA ever since. This looks strong. We did have an expansion bar here on Thursday, and then just an inside day with a poor close down here. Again, just kind of resetting where that space is between the 10 EMA. So for me, still in an uptrend above a rising 10 and 21 EMA. If it pulls back more, I'd want to see it respect the 10 EMA area, which also lines up with this prior range. And you can also draw in this pivot right here. This would be potential support, and then I'm just expecting it to continue to trend above the rising moving averages here. But things look good on the IWM. Again, all the moving averages are in alignment. And it looks like we're potentially in for another move just like this. But again, we'll have to see and take things on a day-by-day basis. Just speaking to the negative side, what would bears want to see, and what would bulls be on guard for? Well, for both the QQQ and IWM, what you'd be on guard for is a sharp negative bar closing near lows, breaking the 10 EMA, and then follow through to the downside. If we get a poor closing bar, expansion bar to the downside, and then fall through to the downside, testing the 21 EMA, something sharp like this, that is basically, should put you on guard and say that there's distribution, at least in the short term, and then you kind of take stock with what's going on. So that would be the negative side, things to look out for. Like I said, there could be the possibility for a stress test next week. A stress test is basically a bar like this that then gets resolved and we continue to trend higher. It's a natural process that often happens at the beginning of trends. If we go back to this area right here, we of course started the trend here. Then we had a gap down, a stress test in the morning that got bought up. If we move further, a gap up, very bad fade here that gets bought up and resolved. Downside reversal gets sold off, holds. So basically, bulls are looking for strong action after a stress test, whether that's a gap down in the morning that gets bought up, or just after a bad bar to the downside, we hold and continue that trend. So that's what bulls would want to see in a stress test if that occurs next week. And again, bears would be looking for follow through to the downside after a stress test. All right, I also want to bring up the IBIT chart here. This, of course, a Bitcoin proxy, Bitcoin ETF. We've been in a strong trend here. Consolidation, consolidation, and then consolidation. All of these are kind of merged into one consolidation in my view. And you can see we switch from a short-term down cycle below the declining 21 EMA to then a gap up, hold, and expansion here on Friday. And really the changing character happened on this bar. We've been testing this level here, which is the high from this base. We weren't able to get above it. We'd pop above it, get sold off, try to test it, get sold off, try to test it, hold. But then on this bar is a positive expectation breaker. And a positive expectation breaker is basically when after a very negative bar like this, which undercuts the prior day low, big range bar, close near lows, instead of following through to the downside, which is the expectation because short-term momentum after a bar like this is to the downside, we gap up and either hold, or even better, we gapped up above this high and held and started to form a range above the 21 EMA. And then we held the next day, and then we pushed on and had a nice, strong expansion bar here on Friday. So things look good in the short term. It was interesting because in this area, a lot of the Bitcoin miners like Hut, I don't know too many of those symbols, but a lot of those Bitcoin miners were acting tremendously well and breaking out and all that as Bitcoin was still looking vulnerable. And it's almost an observation here that maybe they were kind of pre-telling that there's going to be this strength in the crypto space. So just an interesting observation I thought I might mention to you guys there. But overall, again, back above the moving averages, moving up the right-hand side of the base, expecting volatility near this high, and when we get up to this level, expecting some back and fill, and then reconfirmation if this does continue to trend as it follows the natural price cycle. So that is IBIT. But take a step back, look at the QQQ, looking at the SPY. We're rising above the moving averages. Things look good. In terms of overall market context, things are in an uptrend. All right. So in addition to looking at the indexes, it's also important to look at the mega caps. These really show you where the money is flowing, if it's a risk on environment, and everything, centered around Tesla this week. So we'll kind of break it down here. First, it's been basing and forming these higher lows for quite some time. I started getting really interested in it in this area, put on a pilot position, gapped up very nicely, testing this higher pivot. I bought a little bit more this day. We had a downside reversal, and I was watching to see how it acted near this gap. It held that level. I bought a little bit more this day, and then we had the strong expansion here on Thursday and Friday, resolving this base and breaking out of this base. Now my buys here reverses the 10 EMA. I was willing to give it a little bit into this gap fill, see how it acts versus this low, and it held nicely. It was always showing a little bit of demand off these lows, and with holding that range really tight. I'll show you with RMV in just a second. It got to RMV 0, these two bars, and from RMV 0, which is contraction, we often get expansion. And textbook style, this is what you'd want to see. And when Tesla gets going, it can really get going. So super strong expansion bar on this Thursday, breaking out of this base. And then even better, we want to see follow through on any expansion. That really shows you that there's an institutional bid there. Institutions are, scrambling over each other, trying to accumulate shares. And that's what we saw today. Close right near highs. Right now we're a little bit short-term extended, just given this powerful move. I mean, this is up over, 12, 13% in 2 bars. Some back and fill would be normal and natural, and just expecting it to start to ride the moving averages higher. But really great action from this mega cap breaking out of the space, and we'll see if we can finally get a nice trend going in Tesla. Good to see this really participating once again. Microsoft, this is an interesting story. We were in a strong trend, had this gap up on earnings, and it basically sold off since. We had a very negative bar here, rejecting at the moving averages. But instead of following through, again, we're thinking about that expectation. We held and formed a range here. Now, some people would call this a bear flag, but for me, what I see is we have a negative bar here, and then we hold, and we keep holding. And it's not a bear flag until it actually resolves the downside and continues the downtrend. And I see this so many times, people call something a bear flag, and then it pops higher. It resolves to the upside. And that's exactly what we saw here. Everybody's expecting a breakdown, but honestly, it's just kind of not resolving to the downside. It's kind of a wait and see moment. It's a neutral moment. And so far, we got a pop to the upside here on Friday. We're up against the moving averages. We're up against this level here, so it could still consolidate and could still break down, but it's a positive sign that we got this pop here. I like how it acted after this gap. It, pulled in and then closed, in the top half here. So we'll have to see what happens, but good to see Microsoft basically forming out a potential base bottom. That's kind of the larger context here. Apple, also good to see a nice pop higher here today. We had a little bit of breakdown. Of course, they had a news event in this area. We had a breakdown below the 21 EMA. We held an inside day. Again, no fall through to the downside. And then we resume, a pop through the 21 EMA here. Again, just good to see that this is back above the moving averages. That's kind of what I want to see with these mega caps. If I'm not trading them, I just want to see them trending nicely and participating, showing that we're in a more risk-on environment. All right, next up we've got Meta. Again, a little bit of leaking lower here on Thursday, but then we get a nice upside reversal. So some short-term momentum going in here. We've got this range that goes back, all the way to this area here, and ideally it pops higher and pushes higher early next week. Nvidia, definitely want to talk about Nvidia here. Obviously, all the semiconductor names looked set up. I think that was the title maybe even of last week's video. Semiconductors look set up, look coiled. There were so many great moves. We'll talk about MU, AAOI in just a minute. But Nvidia, of course, is the king of semis, and just a juggernaut in terms of that AI theme. So it's good to see how it resolves to the upside. We had a strong gap up here and then tightness to end the week. And again, just good to see that it didn't break down. We had this potential for a bear flag breakdown. We got bought up. Then we held. Nice upside reversal, gap up above the moving averages, and hold. So positive signs in the short term. On any weakness, I want to see it respect this moving average cluster. Some back and fill would be normal, but ideally we're forming this tight range. We resolve to the upside, and this would be an actionable spot here. I'll be watching this personally, and basically watching for a range breakout before the actual base breakout. So ideally this breaks out of the range and then follows through to the upside, breaks out of the base, and continues the strong trend we've been on. This is a consolidation that's been going on for quite some time now, a few weeks, and could still build out, still mature a little bit. And if we get some back and fill and more tightness, that would even improve the setup. But definitely a name I'll be watching to the upside, and this could keep driving the semiconductor theme higher as well. Google, not much to say, trending a little bit short-term extended, but just trending above the moving averages. Amazon, probably the weakest of the bunch here. We had a big downside bar here, tightness, and then reconfirmation to the downside, but a little bit of a push off the 50 SMA here. So again, not a name I'm really trading. It's below the 21 EMA. I'd love to see it get back above it, but you've got the other mega caps acting well. So overall, not too bad from those names right there. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into some individual names, some leaders, some growth stock names. And I'm going to be doing my weekly watch list video tomorrow. So if you have any names that you want me to cover and want to hear my take on, leave them as a comment down below. You can leave, I'll say up to 3, and I'll cover a bunch of those names tomorrow as its own section of the video. So I did that last week, really liked the format. You guys seem to like it as well. So any names you'd like my take on, want my analysis that you think are setting up, or just want to hear my thoughts on, leave it down below as a comment. Leave a like on the video as well if you've been enjoying it thus far. There's been a lot to cover, but again, leave a comment down below with a few tickers that you'd like to hear my thoughts on, and I'll cover those in tomorrow's video. All right. So first things first, let's bring up Tesla. Just want to show the RMV 0. RMV basically is a measure, an objective measure of contraction versus expansion. When it's 0, it means that there's a tight range here forming. It can be subtle like this one, where only really if you're a market wizard with sharp eyes and have looked at a lot of charts, you'll be able to see it. But RMV kind of helps make it easy. And again, it's an objective measure of contraction versus expansion. And when we start to break out, that's when it rises. And 100 is basically signifying we're expanded now. So that, just want to point that out with RMV. Also interesting to note that the fundamentals don't look great with Tesla right now. But the technicals show bottoming action and then a significant base going back all the way to late May. So again, technicals both to the upside and downside lead stocks and trends. And you can see revenue starting to accelerate here, or actually improve at least a little bit. And likely, if this continues to trend and actually starts a meaningful move, we'll see the fundamentals actually start to match the technicals. But I always defer to the technicals. And if something isn't set up, I'm not going to be not going to be focused on it, even if the fundamentals look amazing. So good to see that from Tesla. Again, just want to point out the RMV0 as well as the fundamental aspect of this as well. All right, so let's bring up Hood. This really kicked things off this week because we had the strong gap up on the S&P 500 inclusion, gap and go opportunity here with an opening range breakout and breaking out of this base. And now what we've done is progress higher, but then it lost a little bit of momentum and is now retesting this level. So it's actually setting up another potential spot here, maybe an upside reversal, undercut and rally of this base pivot, or maybe it just holds here, forms a pivot, and breaks out of a short-term range that it forms here. But nevertheless, definitely a name to have on your radar and keep an eye on this. This obviously has been a super powerful stock and is setting up right at this base pivot. So we'll see if it can bounce early next week. NVIDIA, we already talked about. Palantir, let's go ahead and bring that name up. This, of course, I talked about the tightness here. We got a pop higher here on, that would have been Tuesday, a hold for 2 days, and then basically reconfirm to the upside. You've got a mini flag here. Love seeing this, and strong action from this name. I still think it needs to mature a little bit, and actually I think that would improve the setup because this bar does give me pause. But if we can progress higher, tighten up, keep tightening, and let those moving averages curl up under price, this definitely be a name to keep an eye on if you're not already involved from this spot, or this is actionable on Friday here as well. Stop at the lows, stop at this range low, stop at the 21 EMA. There's a lot of technical spots here, and I would expect this to respect the 21 EMA here if it's going to continue higher and eventually break out to new highs. All right, TEM, definitely want to bring this up. All right, so TEM's been on my radar for quite some time. I missed this breakout move, full disclosure. I had been watching it, almost every day here. I just didn't put it on my watch list this night because we had a bad close. I didn't realize we were still in this range, and I could have been watching for basically what emerged and became a positive expectation breaker. That's my bad. But nevertheless, a great stock to study and move to study. And we'll see if it can finally push out into new highs and really start trending. This can really go when it does go. This is basically a 50% move in a matter of a few weeks. This also, 100% move in a matter of weeks. So keep an eye on this name if you're not already in it. It may set up another spot. If it's going to go on a huge move, it's likely going to set up at least a few other great low risk spots to potentially enter. But basically what happened, we have this larger base. We have basically a high handle, a short-term base on top of that level, consolidation, and it's very choppy, very hard to buy on strength, but you could bought it on weakness versus the 10 EMA a few times, and then the most actual spot here, at least for my style, because I like to buy on strength, even though this name isn't conducive to it, is this positive expectation breaker setup shortly after the open, either on the positive expectation breaker itself, setting a stop below the day, very tight stop, give it a shot, or as it breaks through this level, which lines up with this high as well. That's how I drew that basically. And again, stop at the low of the day, lines up with the 10 EMA nicely, and you've got a great breakout here. This is up about 13%, gave back a little bit, but just a tight inside day. So going forward, expecting it to ride the moving averages higher. And be choppy, because that is its character. So I'd expect it to be choppy, but gradually continue the uptrend, and we'll see if it can finally break out through these all-time highs. You can see basically stopped to the cent of this level back there. So TEM, a name to have on your radar. Great opportunity here on this Thursday, or on weakness earlier in the week, or even in this area here. You had a range breakout outside day here, but still a name that's technically early because we haven't broke out to all-time highs. If it sets up a tight range here, gives the moving averages a little bit time to, rise beneath it and show that support, there could definitely be another good spot here on this name. So keep an eye on it if you haven't already built a position or shown interest in this name. LEU, nice action here, breakout. This is on the TradeLab watch list and my focus list here. Upside reversal primes the setup, primes this range, and strong expansion here, and then basically going tight here inside day Friday. If it leaks lower, that would be a negative, especially breaking the 10 EMA, but this ideally reconfirms the upside and begins to test these highs. Moving on, we've got MBIS. Definitely want to cover this name. This, of course, had a very strong gap up. You've got a Microsoft partnership, I believe, and basically had a very strong gap up, but then gave a little bit back and is starting to form, a little bit of a mini consolidation pullback back into the previous all-time highs, which is that level. And I'm basically watching for a U-turn next week. But definitely a name to have on your radar if you're a swing trader, a theme trader. This can make a really big move in just a short amount of time and has kind of that catalyst behind it. So watching for a breakout through this high. All right, another gap up here this week. We had Oracle. This one hasn't acted quite as well, but this kind of brought all the momentum to the AI names and that space again. So we had a strong gap up, I think up about 30%, which is amazing for this size of company. We have given quite a bit back now, and this isn't one I'm really necessarily looking to act on, but this could U-turn, positive expectation breaker, form a range here, and then build something out. With this type of gap, this is a pretty big gap for this type of name. I wouldn't mind seeing a full base form out, and that may be what actually happens. Let those moving averages finally catch up to price, let the 50 SMA even catch up to price, which could take some time, and just kind of chops everybody up in the meantime. So again, not really looking to trade this name personally. I think there's other names better worthy of my time, but if you like trading those gaps and U-turns, and just an overall name that's a good sign for the semiconductor and AI whole sphere of basically themes. A-Lab, speaking of semiconductors, this one's strong expansion to start the week. The best range breakout was right near the 21 EMA. This is my bread and butter setup last week. Then we have follow through to the upside, and then upside reversal action, good close, basically overall a tight consolidation day. And from these type of tight days where the open is near the close, especially near a key level, which this was right near this high, I'm expecting expansion. Now, it could fail, but in this case, we got the breakout and stuck. And then another tight day, more expansion to the upside. And now we're just kind of building out a range here, consolidating a little bit through time, which I think is ideal. Again, when there's space to the 10 EMA, I'm expecting a little bit of pullback. That's natural, that's normal. And ideally, this maybe bases out a little bit more, reconfirms the upside, and just keeps trending higher above those moving averages. But this is the ideal buy point, but through this high and through the actual base breakout would also be actionable. Setting your stop at the low of the day at the 10 EMA, that would be a perfectly good setup there. All right, MU, another semi name, very tight here, tight action, RMV going to 0. And whenever RMV goes to 0, I like to draw a range across those highs, and that becomes a great pivot. We broke out of it, failed it, reset, tight day right at that level, and that's the type of bar that can lead to big moves. I didn't trade this one, but this is, there's so many semiconductor names set up and acting well. And this one has had really nice expansion in the last few weeks. This has been the day to act here and has been a little bit stretch here. You do have the overall base pivot. But for me, I'm always looking for that earlier buy point because you've got better risk reward, very tight stop here versus up here. It broke out this day, but if you bought this day, it could easily pull back all the way here and re-break out and be perfectly normal. So I like buying from contraction versus when it's already expanded 1-2 days and could have a pullback shortly. I like buying, a little bit earlier where I get tighter risk reward, but this is, acted tremendously well. Definitely short-term extended at this point. You can see gaps, you can see space at 10 EMA. I'm expecting this will have some pullbacks and some whippy action, next week, but we'll see what happens. And actually, we don't have to predict, we just have to react to what actually happens. All right, AAOI, this is from the Trade Lab again. Tight action range to the 21 EMA, my bread and butter setup. Gap and go move when all the semiconductors were acting beautiful. Strong breakout through these highs as well. And now tight consolidation. So actually watching for reconfirmation here with this name and setting my stop at the low of the day if that happens, or the low of this range. On this day on the gap and go move, setting your stop at the low of the day, 10 EMA, 21 EMA, all that is pretty clustered close together. So you've got confluence of reasons to set a stop there, and it acted tremendously well, and nice breakout move up about 16% on the day, and then a little bit of give back, but natural, tight action after the breakout. So if this fails and breaks down, that would be abnormal action, but I'm expecting either reconfirmation or a little bit more range building, a little bit choppy action, upside reversal, ideally letting the 10 EMA kind of catch up to price, and then reconfirmation. So we'll see what happens with names. With this name, if the semis keep going, this probably keeps going as well. And this name can really move up about 70% in just a few weeks, and off to a good start so far. So we'll see if it keeps going. All right, HUT. As I mentioned, these miners were acting a lot better than IBIT. If we actually go ahead and change this instead of the SPY to, let's do IBIT. If I can type here, there we go. So now the RS line is versus IBIT. You can see how this has just been rising and outperforming IBIT overall. But just in general, you had nice action here on this Tuesday from this tight day expansion. Again, RMV declining, and very tight day, very tight inside day, expecting expansion. And we fall through to the upside the last few days as IBIT and Bitcoin and crypto finally start participating as well. But all these miners were really outperforming IBIT, which is just kind of standing out to me. And I just want to mention this name, short-term extended, proper buy points here, as well as this day as well. And let me switch this back to SPY. If I can type, there we go. Cool. And lastly, I want to mention RKLB, another TradeLab stock. You've been forming out the space after a very strong move. It's above its previous all-time high, basing for quite some time. Choppy here. I thought it was going to go here. Stopped out the next day, big downside reversal. But after these big bars, you don't want to, take it off your screens, take it off your watch list, because they can, and they often do, reset up, reclaim the 21 EMA, form another tight range, and then break out of the range, and then nice fall through here on this Friday. And ideally, it really pushes out of the space next week. This one can really go when it does go, but we'll see what happens. But again, off to a good start. So that's pretty much it for the names I wanted to cover today. We covered a lot today. We covered the market. We covered the market leaders. We covered the mega caps and a few names that made powerful moves this previous week. Overall, if you had a great week, act like you've been here before. This good times don't always happen, and when they do happen, you want to take advantage of it. But you also want to make sure you're not getting over your boots. And, recognize that after a strong expansion, we often get pullback and contraction. So be ready. If we get a stress test, know what your weakest positions are, what you're going to do to all your positions, what your lines in the sand are, and ultimately try to cement that you'll have a higher low in your equity curve if we do pull back and completely roll over, which I'm not saying we're going to do. I think we're just going to have maybe some natural range building and then reconfirmation and trend to the upside. But again, the market doesn't care what I think. They don't care what you think. It's going to do what it's going to do, and we just have to listen and bend and adapt to what's actually going on in real time, because we do manage risk in real time. So again, hopefully you had an awesome week, and let me know your thoughts down below on the market. What do you think? And again, leave me a few tickers that you want me to cover in tomorrow's video, and I'll do my best to cover as many as you can. If you do enjoy this video, please take the time right now, if you haven't already, to leave a like down below. I really enjoy making these, and it just keeps me motivated to see a bunch of likes, a bunch of comments. So let me know in the comments again if you have any feedback for me on this video, what your top a few symbols are that you want me to cover tomorrow. And with that, again, check out the TradeLab if you haven't already. I do in-depth analysis every single day, and basically show you guys my homework, the names, the focus list names that I'm watching for the next day. And it's been some great picks recently. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys for your videos. Take care.